a little bit about Geoff Diehl in the meantime.
Evening, everybody. I took off my name tag so you wouldn't mistake me. So I'm Geoff tonight, or at least for a few minutes. So good evening, everybody. My name is Peter Duran. I'm state representative for the 6th Worcester District, which is a little bit west of here in the southwest corner of Worcester County. But I am here tonight to talk to you a little bit about Geoff Diehl and Geoff Diehl's run for Senate. He's, you know, a guy that I've gotten to know now over the past 7 years as I've served in the legislature with him. He was elected in 2010. I was elected in 2011 in a special election. But Geoff is the kind of guy that we need in the Senate. Geoff is the guy that thinks like we do. He's a conservative voice in the House of Representatives, and when you need to think about, well, what does Geoff stand for? What is he going to do for us? All you need to do is look at his track record. Right? We talk about the 3 issues, and I can jump right into those. If Geoff is on his way, or he's trying to get on his way, like Rick Green, he had multiple events, and hopefully he can come here and he can talk to you about his own background. But Geoff's actually very easy to figure out, because all we have to do is look at what he's done in the House of Representatives. When we look at illegal immigration, Geoff's fought against illegal immigration. He's worked on cutting off funding to of the $1.8 billion that is spent on illegal immigrants here in Massachusetts. He's co-sponsored and sponsored bills to put our veterans first before the illegal immigrants come in. We put forward amendments to our veterans bill that made sure that that was taken care of, and guess where it got? Nowhere. It got voted down along party lines. Geoff was up there fighting on the floor. Geoff was out working every day for that. When we talk about taxes, Geoff worked on the repeal of the gas tax, of the automatic increase in the gas tax. Geoff spearheaded the effort that collected the signatures, that put it forward to the legislature, had to go and collect the next round of signatures, because as you know, you have to go through this twice, because the legislature will refuse to act on these ballot initiatives. So Geoff was able to get that done, and we repealed the automatic increases to the gas tax. In fact, Geoff has just completed collecting 10,000 signatures to put another ballot initiative together to repeal the state sales tax or get it back down to 5%. So Geoff is in the trenches every day working on these issues. He's out there every day working for his constituents, and that track record proves it. As far as border security, Geoff is in favor of building a wall. He's in favor of strict immigration policies that are going to protect this country. He puts American citizens first, and he's also opposed to funding sanctuary cities. Right? Again, we have in Massachusetts, you've seen the bills come forward to make Massachusetts not just have sanctuary states, but actually to have sanctuary cities as well. I'm sorry, other way. Not to have just sanctuary cities, but have a sanctuary state. We actually have this proposal in Massachusetts to make Massachusetts as a whole a sanctuary state. Think about that. Talk about a magnet. That's something that Geoff is working hard against, something that we're going to make sure doesn't come forward in the legislature. And as I'm talking, hey, look at that! All right. So no, I'm not good. Go ahead. You can go on. All right, folks. I was stalling, man.
Vote for me. Thank you.
I was stalling. All right.
3 minutes.
Come back later, folks. My evening show is different than the day show.
Great job.
Sorry I'm late. Parent-teacher conferences with my youngest daughter. She's 11. Had to make sure I got to it. All A's, so that's going well. Thank you very much. I'm sure you're all concerned. Much better than I did. So, just drove out here, and thanks for having me come and speak. Obviously, these campaigns are pretty important. I know you've spoken to congressional candidates. The Senate race is incredibly important, obviously. And my vision of the next U.S. Senator and Elizabeth Warren's vision of Senator, I think, are way different. I'm guessing you guys have a different vision than Elizabeth Warren as well? Yes? Yeah. Just this morning I rolled out a coalition of Veterans for Diehl, laid out about 10 points that I think we can do a better job with the VA hospital system, with making sure that people coming back from overseas are integrated into the workforce in a better way, educational opportunities for them that are done federally, And Elizabeth Warren, her vision for veterans is to ignore them for up to 113 days. Did you guys hear about veterans assisting veterans out of Lowell? She didn't even get in touch with somebody from their office until 113 days after they'd asked for some help. You know, my vision is supporting, down in Washington, D.C., as your senator, is to support the tax reform bill that's going on right now. Elizabeth Warren has said she's going to be the main obstructionist to trying to get tax reform. I think you guys all agree, if you're a small business owner or work for a small business, that we need that corporate tax cut. It's one of the highest right now in the industrialized world. Bring it back down, repatriate those $2.5 trillion overseas, and at the same time allow businesses to now really hire a lot of folks and get our economy growing again. So I think that's a big vision difference that we have with Elizabeth Warren. And finally, you know, I think securing our borders, making sure that we don't have sanctuary cities, not just in Massachusetts, but across the country as well, is a big imperative. Elizabeth Warren seems to be more focused on writing books while she's in office, as she's written two. She's made $1.6 million for herself personally. And I don't think that's working for Massachusetts. Do you?
No.
Right. You know, Bill Belichick, a successful coach for the Patriots, obviously, wrote about 5 different things that you find in leaders, successful leaders. 1 through 3 are more football related, but 4 and 5 I think are important. 4 is care about the things in people's lives that you work with. So for him, you know, his players have wives, they have children, they have, you know, things that happen in their lives. He cares about that, and ultimately what happens is that team ends up being more galvanized to work together. And I think that's what my motto's been since I've been serving as a state representative on Beacon Hill, is listening to the people that I've been serving. I've been elected 4 times, the last 2 times unopposed, even though there's plenty of Democrats in my district, including John Walsh, the former Democratic Party chair, Shannon O'Brien, who ran against Mitt Romney. You know, I've delivered for the people in my district, and they keep sending me back regardless of the fact that I stand up to both Democrats and Republicans up in the chamber. And so, you know, to me, going down to Washington, D.C. is about working for you, listening to you. And I've been crisscrossing the state for 6 months now, listening to everything you've been saying. And I think we've got to make sure that the message is out there that we can win this race. And that's really, I think, tonight what I want you to know the most, is that this is a winnable race. If you think about the fact that Scott Brown, back in 2010, said he was going to be the 41st vote against Obamacare. Now this is Massachusetts, where Ted Kennedy wanted, universal health care, and Massachusetts voted Scott Brown when he clearly said he was going to be that 41st vote to keep Obamacare from happening, because this state will vote financially what's in their best interest. Has anybody gotten that $2,500 savings from your health care plan yet? Nobody? Okay. The other thing too is this state voted to repeal that index gas tax in 2014. We saved $2 billion. Anybody here collect signatures or sign the forms to get that on the ballot back in 14? Anybody here vote for that? 53% of the state voted for that. We outperformed Charlie Baker by 50,000 votes when we won that ballot question. So the fact of the matter is, this state, once again, it's not Republican, not Democrat, it's voting for what's right, all right? And Donald Trump in Massachusetts got 50% of the Republican vote, 20,000 Democrats unenrolled to vote for him in that election in the primary. And in the general, he didn't compete in Massachusetts, but he still got 1,088,000 votes. I'm going to surprise you here if you haven't heard this yet. That's more than Charlie Baker got when he won as governor in Massachusetts. So this election cycle goes from a 3 million vote count in the presidential cycle to a 2 million vote count for the senatorial, senatorial race. And that means that those 1,088,000 votes take us a long way to beating Elizabeth Warren. In fact, if we get them all, we win right here and now. All right, Charlie Baker's the most popular governor in the country, 77% approval rating. He's going to be a huge, draw for Republicans. A lot of Democrats are going to be depressed in this vote count as well. I think this is the chance with Elizabeth Warren to finally take out this progressive left movement, and I am here to work every single day for the next 12 months to make sure that we get rid of her, and we have another incredible election night like a year ago yesterday in November of 2018. So I'm looking forward to working with you on that goal. Diehlforsenate.com, I think there's brochures. You can get a free bumper sticker, free lawn sign if you go to the website, and thank you very much for having me here tonight.
I I'd like to thank Rafaela Feinstein for being on host committee for the event. Unfortunately, she was unable to make it tonight, but she helped put this event together. I'm Casey Scholl. I'm the finance coordinator for the campaign. And I'd like to introduce Geoff Diehl, our next U.S. Senator and leader of the Gas Tax Initiative, which we collected 120,000 signatures for over the course of 9 weeks, one despite being outspent 31-1 by the special interest groups, and outperformed Charlie Baker by about 50,000 votes. Geoff Diehl.
I guess theater in the round here. So, I'm sorry if I'm showing you my worst side here, but thank Casey, by the way. Where's Casey? Casey Scholl, by the way, is doing an incredible job. She's been working on the campaign all summer. Now we're through the winter, almost to spring, thank goodness, and it's been going really well. If you guys aren't aware, you know, obviously one of the things you want to do is raise a lot of money, and Casey's helped us get to over $1 million by the end of 2017. We're already almost to $200,000 in the first quarter of this year, and that's incredibly important because you want to show around the state and down to Washington, D.C. that we are a viable campaign that's actually going to beat Elizabeth Warren. We've raised more money than my two primary opponents, all right? So yes, one primary opponent did write a check for $3 million. He had to ask one other voter, his wife, if that was okay. We've talked to 10,000 voters around the state of Massachusetts who've given us a check and supported us. So that to me is important. Casey's been behind it, so give her a big round of applause. You know, there's a lot of folks in the room. I could recognize a ton of people if we wanted to spend the time. I do want to thank Dean Cavaretta, who's here. Dean Cavaretta was the state director for the Trump campaign. You guys may remember the Boston Globe absolutely savaged Dean when he was the first Republican in the state to get involved with Trump back during the primary process. It was late 2015, yeah. And so Dean was very nice enough to bring me on board. Got Corey Lewandowski and Hope Hicks to give me the green light to become the co-chair for the campaign here in Massachusetts. That allowed me to start working around the state, talking to the media, and getting folks out there to vote for that primary where, if you guys don't remember it, Trump ended up winning the primary in Massachusetts, the largest margin of victory till his home state of New York, with 50% of the vote, even though there was 13 candidates in the field. So that was a lot. All of that, really, I'm accrediting to Dean for the incredible work he did. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean. That really was, I mean, that was you, Dean. All right, thank you for that. One quick follow-up on Trump. Even though he didn't contest Massachusetts in the general election, he looked at it like Mitt Romney did in 2012. He said, no way I can win this state, so I'm not going to put resources toward it. He still got 1,088,000 votes in Massachusetts. That's more than Charlie Baker got when he was elected as governor in 2014. So if you were to tell your neighbors that Donald Trump got more votes in Massachusetts than our governor, Charlie Baker, they'd say, no way. It's a fact. And that means that those votes are out there to send someone to Washington, D.C. to drain the swamp and continue the progress that Donald Trump's doing. So just think about that when you're out there talking to your neighbors about this race. We can and we will beat Elizabeth Warren in November, okay? You guys obviously know the tragedy that, I'm not going to call it a tragedy, what happened in Florida, the gun violence in Florida. First of all, guns don't kill people, we all know that. But secondly, the FBI dropped the ball with a guy who was identified, should have been tracked down, should have been arrested. The FBI dropped the ball twice in Florida, the Pulse nightclub, all right? I've got an A rating with the NRA, and I've got an A rating with Gun Owners of Action League of Massachusetts. And you've got a guy here who also is created an organization, Massachusetts for Gun Rights, Chris Pinto here, who is trying to, on a regular basis, get legislators to be accountable for their votes on gun legislation in the state, and actually make sure that we protect the Second Amendment. So thank you, Chris,
There's one of the few Republicans who will always stand for a roll call, and as Thomas Paine once said, your liberties are not secure, nor will they ever be secure if the transactions of your government are hidden from you. And Geoff and about 9 other Republicans will always make sure that there's roll calls so that we know how people stand on issues.
How can you vote for someone
we really
that no one can
appreciate
stand for?
you doing that, Geoff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. While I am recognizing a few people, I just want to mention two other folks. One of them is holding a camera. She shouldn't be. She should be taking a moment to get celebrated. When we did the gas tax back in 2014, we had to collect something in the neighborhood of 70 or 80,000 signatures to get on the ballot. And of course, you can't just collect the base number. You need to collect some extra because you're worried about towns crossing out names or the Secretary of State crossing them out. We ended up collecting in, I forget how many weeks it was it 9 weeks or something like that? Over 120,000 signatures all across the state of Massachusetts because of one person. Desiree Swizio is absolutely one of the most incredible coordinators for the Republican Party in Massachusetts. She is invaluable then, she is invaluable now. She's coordinating our efforts to collect signatures for the ballot, to get me on the ballot. We need 10,000. She was able to get 10,000, actually 11,000 signatures to get the rollback of the sales tax from 6.25% back to 5% just a few months ago, so that's going to be on the ballot. Desiree is the MVP of the Massachusetts Party, and she goes too far, too unrecognized for too long, so thank you, Desiree. And there's someone else here, I hope she's still here. Chanel, you here?
I think they,
Okay.
I think they might have went out there to eat.
Chanel may be grabbing something out there. If you guys don't know who Chanel Prunier is, you've got to know Chanel Prunier. She was the first person that met with me when I decided I was going to run for state rep. I live in the town of Whitman, and I've got my wife and 2 daughters there. We own a small business in the neighboring town of Hanson. Chanel met with me over pizza at the local pizza joint and asked me basically a bunch of questions to see if I was a candidate worthy of supporting. And once we had that meeting, I ended up getting some financial support from a group that she works with. And she ended up providing canvassers to help me with my race, going out on weekends to knock on doors and talk to the people of my district. She was one of the instrumental people to help me get into the legislature back in 2010. So hopefully you can give it up loud enough that she can hear you out there. But thank you, Chanel Prunier, for everything. So I am running for the United States Senate because I have a completely different vision of what your next United States Senator should be doing down in D.C. versus what Elizabeth Warren's doing. And I'm sure you guys don't agree with what Elizabeth Warren's doing. Yes? Nothing, right?
Running for president.
Right.
Right.
I got elected in 2010 because I told the people of my district that I cared about them, their families, their kids, their grandkids, their future, and that's how I feel about this race. I care about each one of you in this room. I care about everything that you care about because I've been listening to you. That's what we're supposed to be doing, listening and not lecturing you about what you're supposed to do in life. My job is to reflect your values on Beacon Hill, and now I want to take that down to Washington, D.C. Elizabeth Warren seems to think that this job of U.S. Senator is write books, she's written 2, make money for yourself, she's made $1.6 million, and basically protest everything, resist everything to raise your profile so you can make a run for the White House in 2020. Is that what she was elected to do? No. Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing too is, for me, serving in office on Beacon Hill, I've been lucky enough to be able to vote on legislation to help our veterans, okay, with Valor Act 1 and 2, try to help Gold Star wives, help their kids with education needs when they move into our state from another state. The veterans who've served us, there's veterans here who've served us. Yep. Denny is heading up Veterans for Diehl. I want to thank Denny for the work you're doing. Dick, who's a Marine, served in Vietnam. Thank you, Dick. We're supposed to help these guys when we're in office. That's our job. They put their lives on the line overseas to help us. We're supposed to help you. Elizabeth Warren took 113 days to respond to a veteran from Lowell who was asking for help. That made the Herald, and that made Fox News nationally when she took 113 days, 4 months, to get back in touch. She has an office in Boston, she has an office in Washington, and an office in Springfield. How could she not get in touch with one veteran from Lowell?
Was she on vacation?
113 days. I don't know. She's never in Massachusetts, let's put it that way. She was in Texas last week, raising money for herself. August 4th of this summer, I was campaigning, and she said, I'm working every single day for the people of Massachusetts. That weekend, she was down in Georgia at a Netroots convention, a far-left progressive convention, talking about how to resist at the local level, the state level, the federal level, right? How about we assist the people of our state, of our country, right? So Elizabeth Warren is about Elizabeth Warren. plain and simple, okay? The other thing too is that we've got to stop illegal immigrants coming into our country and taking the money that's keeping people from being able to retire on time, taking housing away from veterans, taking education money away from our kids and their futures, okay? I filed language in the House to make sure that state housing goes to those with Social Security numbers. All right, now the supermajority of Democrats in the House and Senate on Beacon Hill do not want to pass that, even though it's a federal law. Federal requirement is for a Social Security number, but not in Massachusetts, okay? Elizabeth Warren is for open borders. She's for sanctuary cities. And by the way, sanctuary cities, you guys know about this, right? Keeping local law enforcement from working with federal officials. Any politician who advocates for and enacts sanctuary city, in my opinion, has broken their oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Massachusetts. They should be out of office and prosecuted, in my opinion. Okay? Because sanctuary city status means that those who've committed crimes here, not just being illegal, but committed crimes beyond that, are not going to be deported. That means a financial drain to Massachusetts, $1.8 billion a year out of our $40 billion budget, $113 billion annually from our federal budget, and those folks who are committing crimes here illegally have done things like drag Matthew Denise to his death. Okay, you guys know about this? He should have been deported. The Ecuadorian should have been deported, but he was allowed to stay here and kill Matthew Denise. Nancy Maloney, his mother, is now a part of my campaign, supporting our campaign, and you'll see more of her. She's on a national panel with Trump's national panel to try to stop sanctuary cities. Okay, and by the way, Elizabeth Warren voted against Kate's law, which would have also reinforced no sanctuary cities. All right. The two doctors in Boston that were killed by a home invasion, a guy who had committed two bank robberies. The judge gave him 364 days, not 365, because 365 would have triggered a deportation. So you've got activist judges, not just the Ninth Circuit Court out in San Francisco, but right here in Massachusetts. Those people need to be exposed. That's why we need to win a congressional seat like this, so that we can at least have one congressional member who's a Republican that will actually tell the truth to the people of our state. Right now you've got 11 Democrats that are the congressmen and women and 2 senators. They are not telling you the full story about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and they're certainly not pushing a conservative agenda of making sure that we're working for the people of Massachusetts and not the people who are here illegally. Elizabeth Warren, as you probably know, voted to shut down government over DACA. Not once, but twice. She's putting those who are coming into our country illegally over American citizens, over the citizens of Massachusetts. So that's not the leadership that I think we are expecting from our senator. Certainly none of us here voted for it, but I think even the Democrats are disappointed. Her approval rating right now is 52%. 52%. That's a pretty low approval rating for a Democrat that's supposed to be the darling of the Democrat Party. But she voted, or she endorsed Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders, her ideological counterpart, which might explain a little bit. And I serve on Beacon Hill, where a lot of Democrats will tell you, whisper in your ear, she's taken our party way too far to the left. I mean, she's for single-payer health care. How is single-payer health care working over in England, where they've asked people, 50,000 people who need surgeries to reschedule for a year from now because they can't afford it? Canadians are flying to the United States because they can't get procedures done in time. Single-payer health care puts a bureaucrat between you and your doctor. It's unaffordable. And by the way, I had surgery when I was 18 on my eyes called radiokeratotomy. They used a diamond blade to cut your eyes to correct your vision. Now it's called LASIK, and now it's done even cheaper than when I had it done, because the free market works in healthcare, okay? LASIK surgery is not covered by most health plans, so those doctors have to provide it at a cost-effective amount, and they've got to be competitive because they're trying to get you to come in and do it. When you put the free market principles of lower cost and better, when you put the free market principles in place, you get lower cost and better quality of service. That's how it has to work for healthcare. Even Charlie Baker campaigned in 2014 saying that we need to have procedures like hip procedures put online so that if you're in Worcester, you would know what the cost is here versus the cost, let's say, in Berkeley or something like that. So the point is, you need to make sure that you compare costs and people have the choice of going where they can get the procedure done in a cost-effective way. That's where we need to fix healthcare, not single payer. But There is a guy who works in our state. He actually works usually in Gillette Stadium on Sundays. His name's Bill Belichick, all right? I think he would have a difference of opinion as far as the leadership that Elizabeth Warren is exhibiting. He's written 5 keys to successful leadership, and I just want to mention 2 of those things. 1 through 3 are more football related, but 4 and 5 are related to this race. Number 4 is that you need to care about everybody on your team, whether it's the players or it's the staff or their wives or their kids or the problems they're having. If you care about the people working with you, they're going to care about you. They're going to create that bond that helps you succeed and do anything you put your mind to, okay? And that's the theory I've had since I became a state representative. Care about the people of my district, work for them, and that means that they'll help you when you ask them for help. And back in 2014, I asked for a lot of people's help when we did that gas tax ballot question. When Desiree was helping coordinate the collection of the signatures, I was on the radio with Howie Carr, Jeff Gooner, traveling across the state, talking to Jim Polito. Any radio station that would have me, I was on, talking on overnights, making sure that people knew that they had a chance to repeal an indexing of a gas tax that was going to kill them with their household budget. 50% of the gas tax, by the way, goes to the T. You guys may have heard this, but the T in 2015 shut down for a month with that blizzard because there was $6 billion of deferred maintenance. $6 billion. So the money we were sending that way wasn't even getting spent where it was supposed to. All right? Then we found out that the state of Massachusetts spends 4 times the national average to maintain our roads. 1 mile of road, even today, costs us $675,000 a year to maintain versus the national average of $145,000. So all those millions and millions of dollars were getting wasted. And here the legislature was in 2014 saying, you need to pay more every year automatically, and there's going to be no vote. It's just going to go up automatically. It's the only tax in Massachusetts that would have gone up without a vote. Please tell me if I'm wrong here. Isn't this the state of no taxation without representation? There's supposed to be a check and balance. If you're going to give money to the DOT, they better justify where they're spending it. All right? So we won that issue, even though we were outspent by $3 million. We raised about $90,000 to buy signs and banners and all that sort of thing, and some ads here and there, radio ads. But we had nothing compared to what the opponents were doing, and yet we still won that issue, and we outperformed Charlie Baker, the governor that year, by 50,000 votes. He won his race by 40,000 votes. We outperformed him by 50,000 votes. So you all in this room delivered a victory that showed Beacon Hill, they have to be accountable. And by the way, it wasn't just Massachusetts. Grover Norquist, who's from Massachusetts, runs Americans for Tax Reform. He said that he was able to now call governors around the country and say, you better not pass an index gas tax because even Massachusetts just repealed that. That's how big a victory that was for us, okay? But look, we didn't rest on our laurels after we did that. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I said laurels. Number 5 in Belichick's keys to success is, number 5 is don't rest on your laurels, okay? So we certainly didn't rest on our laurels after we won that gas tax ballot question, and I didn't either, because I ended up getting involved with the Trump campaign, as a lot of you folks here did, and like I said, Dean did too. We didn't rest on our laurels.
The best one, Jeff.
What's that?
You stopped the Olympics.
The Olympics, yes, thanks for reminding me.
That came before Trump.
That was, that was a little quick hit, that kind of a blip on the radar. In 2015, after we won the gas tax ballot question, we found out that we were potentially going to get the Olympics in Massachusetts. You may remember this. They wanted to build a bike stadium on the common. They were going to cut the trees down, put the bike stadium up, tear it down, and put the trees back up. Okay? They wanted a VIP lane in and out of Boston, because right now there's no problem getting in and out of Boston. No problem. And Deval Patrick, the former governor, was getting paid $7,500 a day. A day. Would you guys like to make $7,500 a day?
Yeah.
Well, Deval Patrick was going to try to pull the wool over our eyes, because the average overruns for the Olympics is $10 billion, and the International Olympic Committee requires the host state to sign off that the citizens will pay for the overruns. We were going to be on the hook for $10 billion. I filed language in the House to say no taxpayer funding for the Olympics. Guess what? I didn't even get a roll call. I didn't even get a roll call in the House. They refused to even take a vote on that, okay? So I ended up working with Evan Falchuk, who had just run for governor as an independent. And we filed ballot question language to say no taxpayer funding for the Olympics. We rolled it out on the State House steps. 2 weeks later, Boston 2024 pulled up stakes and said, we're done with Massachusetts. The game is up. Obviously, they know what we're all about.
We're not messing with those gas tanks.
Yeah, we don't want to mess with you guys again. Exactly, that's what it was about. So the fact is, you guys won that victory, okay? And I knew that you guys were going to be with me again when I supported Trump in that primary. Believe me, I would not have stuck my neck out to support the guy, even though I believed in him, if I didn't think that you guys were going to come through again and work with me to make sure that we could deliver that primary. And we delivered that primary, like I said, in a huge way. Huge. The biggest margin of victory until Trump hit his home state of New York. Just think about that. Massachusetts. And again, more voters voted for Trump than voted for Charlie Baker. That should let you know that this state is ready for a change. Okay? Now, a year ago, Elizabeth Warren probably thought this race is unwinnable, or unlosable. She probably thought there's no way I can lose. But if she crisscrossed the state like I have for the last 9 months talking to people, whether it's veterans, whether it's police officers, firefighters, all right? Firefighters, the rank and file is with us. Talking to small business owners, just families. You talk to anybody, and they'll tell you Elizabeth Warren has not been listening to them at all. At all. Right?
That's obvious.
Obviously. But I've been listening to you guys. I'm going to make sure that when I go down there, if there is no wall voted on yet, I will vote to make sure we build that wall. Okay? If it's not done yet, I will go down there and make sure that veterans are getting the VA hospitals are taking care of the veterans the way they need to. There's more women, by the way, serving in the military, and our VA hospitals have yet to catch up with bringing more women practitioners in to help them. We need to make sure the VA hospital system is a 21st century hospital system, because we got a 21st century battlefield out there of soldiers that are surviving their wounds and coming back with more complex needs. We need to make sure the VA is not the tail end of our medical system in the country, but the leading part of our medical system in the country. So I promise you I'll do that. But even more importantly, I'm going to promise you that I will never vote to raise a tax down in Washington, D.C. I have committed and taken a no new tax pledge. I have committed to and signed a 2-year term limit pledge. Two-term term limit pledge. I'm not going to make a career out of being in Washington, D.C. I'm leaving after 8 years in office, 4 terms. And I'm leaving before I get a pension, just so you know, because that's not what it's about. It's supposed to be a calling and not a career. I'm going to go to Washington, get the job done, and then get out, get back home, be with my family, and do the things I need to do in my community to make sure that my towns are doing well. But while I have this moment, while I have this chance, I'm asking you all to be a part of this incredible movement that's been happening for a long time. In 2010, we doubled the number of Republicans in the legislature in Massachusetts. We had a Tea Party out there, and those folks helped bring more accountability to Beacon Hill. Then it kept going forward. Down in D.C., we won the Senate back. Brett primaried out Eric Cantor as the majority leader in the House. Boehner stepped down a year later. Trump became the nominee in 2016, and he won. It's time to drain that swamp in D.C. that's no longer working for us. You've got the FBI, the Department of Justice, the IRS, all of these alphabet agencies in D.C. working against you. Your government is working against you. You need politicians that are going to hold them accountable, expose it. I've done it on Beacon Hill. I'm going to continue to do it down in Washington, D.C. So I think you know what you want from your next U.S. Senator. I certainly know what I want to do for you as your next U.S. Senator. Let's do this thing together, all right? Thank you. So look, I know we've got a little more time here. I got to get back. I got another day on the road. I was up at 7 a.m. in the RV, and I've been out all day meeting with business people and mayors and a lot of great folks. I need to start doing it all over again tomorrow, so I'm going to have to hit the road soon. But I'm not going to leave till I have a chance to say hello to you guys one more time. If you want to take some pictures, obviously great to post on Facebook and spread the word. But honestly, I can't thank you enough for coming out tonight to be a part of helping this campaign, for your generous donations. This is what's going to help us get the resources to win. And we don't need the $14 million that Elizabeth Warren has. We were able to do it 31-1 with the gas tax. We're going to do the same thing. Take your donations and maximize it and get out there and spread the word. But you need to be part of spreading the word too. Just because you're leaving tonight doesn't mean you're done. Sign up for a lawn sign. Take a bumper sticker. Those bumper stickers, by the way, these are the good ones. They're not the paper ones that when you try to scrape them off your bumper, they stick on. These are the really good ones. They stick on, they come off easy. Put a bumper sticker on, I promise you. It comes off easy. But you're going to want to keep it on because we're going to win, and we're going to, for 6 years, you're going to say, look at me, I was the smart one in my neighborhood, right? So take the bumper. Yeah. So take the bumper stickers, and make sure you also take our brochures. Sign up to get a lawn sign. You go to our website, diehlpercentage.com. You sign up, we'll get you a lawn sign when the time is right, when your town code allows it. But this is a movement that's going to be happening, and we're going to win this thing. We are absolutely going to win it, and you're going to get at least 6 years of really good representation down in Washington, D.C., I promise. Open door policy, and I'm going to be, when I'm your senator, I'm not going to be flying to Texas, I'm not going to be flying to Georgia, I'm not going to be flying to New York to go on The View, I'm not going to be, going to California, believe me. I will be working, they won't. Sorry, Whoopi, not going to make it. Sorry, Joy, not going to happen. No, I'm going to be working for you every single day, and I promise that from here on out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.